everybody. Dan Illman and Mike Beer, the DRF race of the day for Wednesday, April the 19th. Race number 6 at Keeneland, a first level allowance. $110,000 is the purse. We're going a mile and a half, 3 turns over the Keeneland turf course. Let's take a peek at the field. Please scan or click the QR code for race of the day access on mobile with free formulator pass performances. Mike the 3, Evan Harlan, is your 9 to 5 morning line favorite. Why not? This horse is dropping out of a graded stakes race at Santa Anita and has good early speed.
Yeah, it more than anything else kind of feels like the right spot here for Evan Harlan, Dan. I mean, it's just he's got some quality to him. I guess distance is a little bit of a question still. It's a big field here, but there's a lot of filler. It doesn't feel like there's that much talent. He's run basically nothing but good races.
Now, towards the second half of 2022, Evan Harlan was sort of transformed into a need the lead type, and he was fairly effective utilizing those tactics. Will he be able to utilize those tactics here? We'll find out. We throw up the Timeform US pace projector, and Timeform US notes that the number 5 Sea Falls, and they're absolutely right, is also a horse that likes to be forwardly placed. And I find it hard to imagine that Luis Saez is going to concede with Sea Falls. I think Evan Harlan takes a seat this time around.
Yeah, I don't see why they wouldn't. I mean, I know they've been putting him on the lead in his recent starts, but I don't feel like he has to be there in order to be effective. That certainly wasn't the case earlier last year. And I know he didn't win any of those races when they first stretched him out, but he ran fine from off the pace and both of those starts. So I can see them just sitting a pretty decent trip here up close, but he doesn't have to be on the lead.
This is a long distance race. Stamina is going to play a very key factor, and the number 1 foreign relations is all stamina. Just think about it, folks. He's run 5 times in his career. 3 of those races at a mile and a quarter, including his career debut, his one and only start on turf where he ran just fine. He's been running in synthetic races, and in his last race going a mile and a quarter, he was up close to a pretty solid pace. I think he's better on turf, and I think he can work out a good trip from the rail.
Yeah, I agree with all that stuff. I mean, I like that he's actually improved since that debut. It was a long layoff after that, and none of those races even came on turf. I think if you go back and look at his debut, there are some things to like about that performance. He didn't break that great. I really liked the run that he put in just to catch up to that field and then to stay on through the stretch. He really finished up well in there. And there was a decent pace in front of him, but they weren't flying. I don't know. I thought this horse ran well in his debut. I like him getting back to turf for this. The distance not supposed to be an issue for him. He's got a great post, and he picks up Pratt.
Now, the number 2, Solid Country Gold, is going to be stretching out to these marathon distances. He ran last week going a mile and an eighth in a first level allowance race. Gave sort of an even performance from the back of the pack. Just because he rallied at 9 doesn't mean he's going to be effective at 12, however. And I wonder if he's already been sort of exposed as a first level allowance horse that might be in a little tough against this field.
I mean, that's kind of how I looked at him. You know, I guess we'll see. I mean, it's not like he's totally overmatched by this field, I guess, Dan. His 2 turf races since Catalano claimed him, they're okay. I don't think they're great. They're okay. Maybe he'll stretch out effectively in here, but you'd have to you'd have to offer him at a pretty big price to get me interested.
Since changing styles, Evan Harlan was able to break through with a gate-to-wire winner during the Belmont at Aqueduct meet and a race 2 starts back, a much tougher first-level allowance at Santa Anita, where he showed speed, and he just ran into a very hot horse. That Exalted that won that race has turned into one of the better middle-distance turf horses out in Southern California. Last time out in the San Marcos, he was just in way too tough against a really good field. Prince Obama is one of the better longer-distance horses in Southern California, so he gets class relief, but he's already had 8 chances and he's still eligible for a non-winners of 2 life.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, it's at least something that you want to consider at a short price in here, Dan. Certainly he's got the class lines. They've run him in a couple of graded races recently, but it's not like he still doesn't have something to prove here. And again, I also feel like, you know, it's a real question how much better this horse gets as they keep stretching him out in distance. That the last one at a mile and a quarter, that pace was pretty solid against good horses. Maybe it'll be an easier trip here, but I don't think he's any cinch to get the mile and a half.
The number 4 is El Ajidajo. And just think, non-winners are 2 life. This horse is 1 for 55 lifetime. He's been running on synthetic recently. He needs to somehow improve by leaps and bounds and maybe have a little bit of luck go his way as well.
Yeah, I think we can safely move on from this horse. I can't make a case for him.
See, Falls has run well in his 2 starts on turf this year at the fairgrounds, showing speed in both of those races. He just wasn't able to hold on at shorter distances, and now they're going to stretch him out. If there wasn't another speed type like the morning line favorite in this race, maybe I'd give him a little bit more consideration, just backing down the fractions and hoping to sprint on home. I just think he's not going to be able to really shake loose and be able to relax.
I worry about that too. I guess the one thing that you just have to keep in mind with him, Dan, is that he's got races that I guess, at least put him on the cusp of being really competitive in here. And he's going to be a pretty fair price, I think. I don't think he's going to take that much money in here. So that just, left me wanting to at least leave him open for a little while in this race and see what kind of price he goes off. And I don't think, distance necessarily helps him, but I don't think it hurts him. They set him along a couple of times last year. He ran fine in those races.
Surprising it's taken 3 years to get the 6-win twist back on turf. The one time they tried it at Belterra Park in 2020, he won as the favorite. Since then, he's been running on dirt and synthetic, and it seems he's been running some solid races on the synth recently against weaker horses, $5,000 starter allowance types, but he's going to be stretching all the way out, stepping way up in class. Maybe he's a horse, if the pace is hot, that can come along late for a piece.
It seems like at least he's a little bit better now than he was when they ran him on turf back in 2020. Of course, I think we should point out that when he won that only turf start, it was a 12-5 maiden claimer. He's got his work cut out for him here.
Silent Steve, the number 7, took advantage of a pretty hot pace when winning a condition claiming event over the all-weather at Turfway last time out. He did beat a couple of next out winners, and the second place horse did come back to run second at Keeneland with a 68 buyer and a condition claimer. He's another horse stepping up in class that's going to need a lot of pace and race luck from the back.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, he's 50-1 on the morning line. If you found something to like about him, then you should go ahead and bet him. But I thought it was pretty hard to make a case for him here.
Another closer, stretching out, switching surfaces, stepping up in class is the number 8, Smokey Lee, who was claimed for $8,000 3 starts back and has been clunking up to get minor awards in his 2 subsequent starts. Whether he can handle turf 1.5 miles in this company, those are all legit questions. Another horse that'll be a big price.
Yeah, big price. Hard to really find anything to really want to latch onto. They're not only switching surfaces and stretching way out, but they're moving them way up in class here.
Mount Rundle's the number 9, and I think he's still lightly raced enough that we can project a little bit of improvement. He ran in that first level allowance last time out at Turfway. It was his first race off a fairly significant layoff, and that pace just seemed very strong. He broke well. He went to the front. He was confronted. He kept on battling for the lead, and he just got tired at the very end. I think he can build on that performance, and he is not a need the lead type. He has run well in the past from off the pace. He's done okay on turf as well.
Yeah, closer on the turf courses for the most part. It feels like off the layoff last time, maybe just the way that they sent him to the lead in that race, Dan. Maybe he really needed that race and they were giving it to him. He could be a lot fitter now. He's very lightly raced. I'm a little concerned about distance with this horse. I'm not so sure that stretching him all the way out to 1.5 miles actually helps him, but he's not that hard to make a case for him here.
His uncoupled stablemate, the number 10, always above, is 3-1 on the morning line. Joe Talamo takes the mount. This horse ran okay 2 starts back in an allowance race at Keeneland. It was a race with a solid pace, but it was also a second-level allowance. He was in a little bit tougher that day. One of the also-rans did come back to run second twice against that sort of company on turf with buyers of 87 and 91. Throw out the last race on dirt. He's faced good horses on turf, and his maiden win, I thought, was pretty good at Churchill.
Yeah, I did too. He just kind of feels like a stayer to me, Dan. Maybe more so than some of the other horses in here. He's one of the horses that feels like the distance is really no problem at all for him. He could get a good trip in this race too, even though he has post 10. I mean, I don't think he's going to be the favorite in here. You could make the case though that he should take his share of money in this race. I think he's a major player.
The 11 Master of the Ring finished ahead of 3 of these common foes in that synthetic race at Turfway last time out, and he was up close to the pace. He was outrun a bit as they attempted to sprint for home entering the second turn, but he re-rallied nicely to finish second and then ended up being disqualified and placed 5th. He's run well on turf in the past, and like Mount Rundle, where he was forward last time out, I think they just take him back and try to make one run here.
Yeah, probably. He didn't get a great post in this race, but it's Maker. We've seen this before, Dan. He only took over late in 2022. He only got 1 start in there. He's come back with 3 start since, all on a different surface. And Maker is going to continue to stretch this horse out, which always seems like a positive to me. We'll see what kind of trip he gets from post 11. I wouldn't go too short on him, but I think he's a player in here.
4-1 on the morning line. Tyler Gaffalione takes the mount. Completing the fields, the 12, Bold Looker will be trying turf for the first time. The Arrogates have done okay on the turf thus far. This horse's only win came when dropped in for a tag over the synthetic at Turfway. He ran okay in his first subsequent start when they stretched him all the way out to 1.25 miles. Last time out, didn't run very well. He's got to prove a lot of things switching to turf from a lousy post.
Yeah, I'd like him more maybe if he had a better post in this race. And I could see giving him one chance here on turf going long. As you mentioned, the Arrogates are okay on this surface. I think the Dam, she was unraced, I think, but she's a sister to a horse who won a graded stakes race going long on the turf. So I wonder if, stretching all the way out and switching over to grass could help this horse.
Before we get to our top selections, please click the subscribe button on the Daily Racing Form YouTube channel for the latest DRF videos. Top pick time for our Wednesday race of the day, and we respect the morning line favorite Evan Harlan in here. I just don't want to take a short price on him. He's had several chances already, and the pace might not be to his liking. I like your pick, Foreign Relations. He is a lightly raced horse. He's 5 years old. I like that he's now been racing several times in a row without breaks. He has a nice inside draw, good tactical speed, and the distance will be fine.
Yeah, I like him getting back to turf too, like among all those other things that you mentioned. He's going to be a price on this race, it seems. And, listen, the favorites might, run really well in here. I didn't love either one of the two short prices on the line, though, Dan. I'm happy to try somebody else.
Curious to see if the 9 Mount Rundle can get the distance. It's a concern, but I think he gained a lot of fitness from his last race off the layoff. He's run well on turf in the past, and he's tactical enough that I think Johnny V can sort of tuck him in 3rd and 4th and maybe get a first run on the true closers turning into the stretch. Mike's going 1, 3, 5, and 10. I'm going 9, 3, 10, and 11. It's the Wednesday DRF race of the day. It is race number 6 at Keeneland. Best of luck.